Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a creature that can, well, instantly vanish into its surroundings, solve complex puzzles, and maybe even play.
Hmm.
Now, imagine this creature isn't, a mammal or a bird, but a soft-bodied invertebrate with a brain that's partly in its arms.
Yeah, it sounds like science fiction, but it's real.
Exactly. We're talking about octopuses often called aliens right here on our own planet because their intelligence is just, well, astonishing.
Truly remarkable creatures.
So today we're diving deep into a stack of fascinating sources. We've got experimental studies, some deep neurobiology papers, all trying to unravel this one big question. What makes octopuses so incredibly intelligent, and how did they even get there?
Right.
Our mission here is to really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, give you a kind of shortcut to understanding these amazing animals.
Uh,
You'll discover how they actually managed to rival many vertebrates in cognitive skills, even though they took a completely different evolutionary road.
it's a truly unique evolutionary story.
Yeah.
Because, when we talk about intelligence in animals, we generally mean their ability to flexibly learn things, remember them, and then apply that knowledge to solve new problems, adapt to change.
Okay.
And octopuses are just a living testament to this definition,
Yeah.
especially when you think they're solitary, short-lived mollusks.
Right. Totally unlike the social, long-lived mammals or birds we usually study.
Exactly. They really force us to broaden our whole concept of what a complex mind can even look like.
And what immediately jumps out from all the research is just their sheer problem-solving ability.
Yeah.
We're not talking simple instinct here, like those classic studies showing octopuses tackling screw-top jars.
Oh yeah, the jar tasks.
You put a crab inside, screw the lid on, and these octopuses, especially Octopus vulgaris, they actually learn to unscrew it.
And they get faster at it too.
Right. Not only learn, but they get more efficient with practice. That's not luck. It's clearly rapid learning and memory in action.
Definitely. And their adaptability goes even further. Like more recent studies have used these multi-stage puzzle boxes.
Okay, what did those involve?
Well, they require a sequence of different actions to get the reward. And what's amazing isn't just that they solve them, but how quickly they adapt if you change the rules.
Ah, so they're flexible.
Very. Their performance might dip for a bit when the change happens, but then they rebound. It shows this behavioral flexibility that's a real hallmark of advanced cognition.
So they're not just memorizing steps, they kind of understand the problem itself.
That seems to be the case. They're not just rigid automatons.
So, okay, they can figure out a new gadget in the lab. But what about understanding their actual environment? I remember reading something about them navigating detour tasks, like going out of sight of their prey.
Yes, that's a critical observation.
What does that actually imply?
Well, when an octopus disappears behind, say, a rock to get to prey it can no longer see, it strongly suggests they aren't just reacting to what's right in front of them. They're likely holding on to some kind of internal mental map, a representation of where that prey is in their mind.
Wow, okay, so mental navigation, prediction. That's a big cognitive leap.
It really is.
And it's not just about these structured lab tasks, is it? I've heard their problem solving can be pretty opportunistic out in the wild.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Their intelligence isn't just for the lab, it's for survival. And research actually suggests that an octopus's, personality traits play a role.
Personality in an octopus.
Yeah. Those that show more neophilia, that's like curiosity, being attracted to new things, they tend to solve puzzles faster.
Interesting.
But there's a balance. Too much impulsivity can actually hinder them. But, a good dose of curiosity often leads to quicker solutions.
Huh. So it's kind of like finding that sweet spot between exploring and being careful.
Exactly. Not unlike what we see in humans, actually.
Okay, speaking of surprising stuff, tool use, that used to be considered almost uniquely human, maybe primates.
Right. The definition is broadened.
But now we're seeing it in octopuses. That's just mind-blowing. But what did researchers actually see?
It's a spectacular observation, really. They documented the veined octopus, Amphiooctopus marginatus, actively collecting halved coconut shells.
Collecting them.
Yeah, and then carrying them across the seafloor. Sometimes they even do this stilt-walking thing on two arms while holding the shells with the others.
Stilt walking with coconuts.
I know. And then later, they assemble them into a secure shelter. It's basically portable armor.
Okay, so it's a defensive tool they prepare for future use.
Precisely. That's the key. They're not just using a random rock they find. They're actively carrying an object for a future purpose.
That implies some level of foresight, doesn't it? Planning ahead.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It meets that classic definition of tool use. an object carried and manipulated for a future goal.
Right.
Now, they don't craft tools like a chimpanzee might make a termite probe, but their ability to manipulate and strategically use found objects, whether it's coconuts or, barricading their dens with stones, it's incredibly sophisticated for an invertebrate.
It really challenges our sort of traditional boxes for what counts as tool use.
Completely.
Okay, so moving from those really complex behaviors, what about the sort of foundational learning? How do they just pick up basic info about their world?
Well, even at the fundamental level, their learning is incredibly efficient. They show habituation really quickly, learning to just stop reacting to harmless things.
Saves energy, I guess.
Exactly. Crucial in a high predation environment. And beyond that, they're excellent at operant conditioning, learning to do things for rewards or to avoid punishment.
Like associating shapes or colors with food?
Yes, studies going way back showed they could distinguish complex shapes and colors and remember those discriminations for weeks, sometimes up to 50 days.
Wow, 50 days. That's a long time for an animal that doesn't live very long.
It's a robust memory, absolutely.
Okay, so that basic learning is strong, but what happens if the rules change? If what worked before suddenly doesn't, do they get stuck?
This is where their cognitive flexibility really shines. It's called reversal learning.
Reversal learning.
Okay, so imagine a task where they learn, say, go left for food. Then, boom, suddenly the reward is on the right.
Right, you switch it up.
Octopuses, ovalgares, again, they don't just adapt to the swap. If you repeat these reversals and give them clear feedback when they're wrong, they actually make fewer errors each time.
So they get better at switching.
Exactly. It's like learning to learn. It shows this amazing ability to override old habits and quickly form new associations. That's a very advanced kind of flexibility.
That is impressive. And okay, memory again. You mentioned they remember discriminations for weeks. Like us, they seem to have short-term and long-term memory, but how does that actually work physically? What's going on in their somewhat unusual brains?
All right, it's a great question. Researchers have looked closely at this. They've pinpointed a structure called the vertical lobe in the octopus brain as being crucial for consolidating long-term memories.
The vertical lobe.
Okay, and here's what's really striking. This lobe shows long-term potentiation, or LTP.
LTP, isn't that something we see in mammals?
Precisely. It's a persistent strengthening of connections between neurons, a key cellular mechanism for memory formation that we also find in mammalian brains.
Wow, so that's like convergent evolution right down at the synapse level.
Exactly that. A similar solution to the problem of storing memories long-term evolved completely independently.
That's incredible. But what about remembering specific events? Not just facts or skills, but like remembering what happened, where, and when. Episodic memory.
That gets us to the really intriguing idea of episodic M-liking memory. It's hard to test directly in octopuses for various reasons. But their close relatives, cuttlefish, have shown abilities that look very much like it.
Cuttlefish. How so?
Well, studies have shown cuttlefish remembering what happened, like which prey they ate, where it happened, which location, and when it happened, like how long ago. For instance, they can recall where different types of prey replenish and at what times.
So a what, where, when memory.
Exactly. And that kind of memory is super useful for foraging efficiently in the wild. It strongly suggests octopuses probably have similar sophisticated memory systems.
And it's even more amazing considering their lifespan, right? I heard cuttlefish memory doesn't even decline with age.
That finding was remarkable. For an animal that often lives only a year or two, having such a robust, enduring memory system is critical.
Yeah, no time for senior moments, I guess.
Pretty much. They need to maintain those cognitive functions, finding food, avoiding predators right through their whole, often perilous existence. They need to be sharp from day one to the very end.
Okay, shifting gears a little.
Yeah.
Let's talk about their curiosity, and maybe even play. That seems like a very un-mollusk-like thing.
Well, their curiosity is definitely a defining trait. Octopuses seem to balance this neophilia, the attraction to new things, with neophobia, a sort of cautious wariness.
And does that vary? Like, are some octopuses bolder than others?
Oh, absolutely. Research shows clear individual differences. You get bold octopuses that quickly explore new objects or environments, and more shy ones that take their time.
And this curiosity helps them learn.
For sure. It's a big driver of learning and adaptation. But yeah, maybe the most charming and kind of compelling evidence of their complex inner world is this play-like behavior.
Okay, this is one of my favorite bits. Tell us about the jet play again. It just sounds so, I don't know, relatable.
It really does.
Yeah.
Researchers described captive giant Pacific octopuses doing this thing they call jet play. They'd repeatedly squirt water at a floating pill bottle, send it into the tank's current, then they'd chase it down, grab it, and do it again, over and over.
And it wasn't for food or anything practical?
Nope. No obvious reward. It's repetitive, seems voluntary, doesn't serve an immediate survival function. It ticks a lot of boxes for what we define as play in mammals.
It does sound like a kid dropping a toy just to watch it fall.
Kind of that sort of persistent, seemingly pointless activity.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder what's going on in their heads, doesn't it? What the subjective experience is like.
It definitely hints at a rich inner life. Okay, now, octopuses are generally seen as solitary creatures. So how much social smarts do they really have?
That's a great question because it does seem like a paradox. While they are typically solitary, they're not completely oblivious to others of their kind.
Oh.
Some studies, again with O. vulgaris, have shown they can actually recognize and remember individual neighbors.
Remember other octopuses.
Yeah, and behave differently towards familiar ones versus strangers, which, even for a solitary animal, can be adaptive, right? Helps manage those occasional encounters smoothly.
Okay, that makes sense. But the whole idea of observational learning, one octopus learning just by watching another, that's still pretty controversial, isn't it?
Very much so. It's tricky.
What makes it so hard to pin down in invertebrates?
You're hitting on a key point of ongoing debate. There were some early, really groundbreaking reports suggesting observer octopuses could learn to avoid a bad object just by watching a demonstrator get punished for choosing it.
Right, that sounds like social learning.
It does, but replicating those results consistently has been a real challenge. A big part of the difficulty is ruling out other possible cues, like maybe the demonstrator released some chemical signal when it got shocked, and the observer just reacted to that, rather than truly learning from the visual observation.
Okay, so alternative explanations.
Exactly. It remains this tantalizing possibility that their advanced brains can process social information in certain ways, but the scientific community is still working on nailing down definitive proof, especially given how different their social lives are from, say, primates or birds.
Right, controversial seems like the right word, especially when you hear about places like Octopolis, these dense aggregations where they seem to be interacting, even maybe throwing things at each other.
Yeah, those observations are fascinating, but also hard to interpret definitively.
Why is proving social intention so difficult there?
Well, in these dense spots, researchers see octopuses adopting specific body patterns, postures, even launching silt or shells with their jets, sometimes in the direction of another octopus. It looks like signaling, maybe even aggression or annoyance. But scientifically, you have to rule out simpler explanations first. Is it truly directed communication with intent? Or could it just be a byproduct of crowding? Maybe territoriality, just trying to maintain personal space.
Got it. So separating intention from just consequence.
Precisely. It was why it remains a really active and quite exciting area of research. We just don't know for sure yet.
Okay, let's shift to their physical form because that's probably the most alien aspect for many people. Over half, more than half, of an octopus's 500 million neurons aren't in its central brain. They're out in its arms.
Yeah, it's wild. A truly distributed nervous system.
So how does a creature with that kind of distributed mind even function? How does it control those incredibly flexible arms?
It's a fantastic example of what we call embodied intelligence. The arms have a significant degree of autonomy. They can make local decisions without constant, detailed instructions from the central brain.
So the brain doesn't have to micromanage every single sucker.
Exactly. That would be an overwhelming control problem. Research shows they simplify it by creating temporary quasi-joints in their arms for precise movements. The central brain might give the overall goal, like reach for that crab, but the arm's local nerve circuits handle the complex details of how to make the movement smooth and effective.
So the body itself is sort of participating in the problem solving.
In a way, yes. It's not just a passive tool being directed. The physical structure and the local processing are integral to how they interact with the world.
Okay, that makes a kind of sense. Mini brains in the arms. And then there's their camouflage. It's just unbelievable.
This is it. Split-second changes.
Matching rock, coral, sand, texture, too.
Yeah.
How do they pull off that level of instant visual problem solving?
It's incredibly fast. It involves direct neural control over thousands of specialized pigment cells called chromatophores, plus other cells for texture and reflectivity.
So it's like their skin is almost thinking. Visually.
That's a great way to put it. They're perceiving their background and instantly translating that visual information into a matching pattern on their skin. It's solving a complex visual puzzle almost instantaneously. It's sensoromotor intelligence at its peak.
And it's not just visual sensing, right? Those suckers are doing more than just gripping.
Absolutely. The suckers are packed with chemoreceptors. They're tasting and touching the environment simultaneously.
Tasting with their arms.
Yeah. They can apparently identify objects, including potential food or danger, just by touch and taste, sometimes even rejecting something harmful before the information fully gets processed by the central brain.
Wow. So it's like parallel processing across the whole body.
Exactly. The arms and suckers are constantly gathering and filtering information, running local routines, all while the central brain handles the bigger picture. It allows them to manage incredibly complex tasks simultaneously. It's an intelligence system built on principles very different from our highly centralized vertebrate brains.
Okay, so all these incredible abilities, the problem solving, the camouflage, the arm autonomy, they must be backed up by some pretty unique neurobiology, some serious hardware.
You definitely need the right hardware for that kind of software.
Yeah.
And you're right, while their overall brain size, in terms of neuron count, is comparable to maybe a small mammal, its organization is radically different. No single big cerebrum like ours. Instead, they have these specialized lobes. We already mentioned the vertical lobe for memory.
Right, with the LTP, like mammals.
Exactly. Showing that convergent evolution again, right down to the synaptic mechanism level. It's not just a vague analogy. It's a shared molecular process for memory.
That's just wild. That two lineages, separated by over 500 million years, would land on the same cellular trick for memory. Are there other biological parallels we might recognize?
There are. We find familiar neurotransmitters doing similar jobs. Things like serotonin, which, by the way, seems to facilitate that LTP in the vertical lobe, plus dopamine, acetylcholine. These are all playing crucial roles in modulating learning and behavior, much like they do in vertebrates.
There's some of the basic chemical signaling is conserved.
It seems so.
Yeah.
It suggests that certain fundamental biological pathways for enabling cognition might be somewhat universal, even if the overall brain architecture is vastly different.
But then I gather it gets really unique when you look at their genes. I heard their genome is incredibly complex in its own special way.
Oh, absolutely astounding. When the octopus genome was first sequenced, one of the biggest surprises was this massive expansion of a specific gene family, the protocateherins.
Protocateherins, what do they do?
They're really important for wiring up complex brains, involved in how neurons recognize each other and form specific connections. Octopuses have something like 168 of them. That's about double what mammals have.
Double. Okay, so they weren't just borrowing vertebrate tricks.
Not at all. It strongly suggests octopuses evolved their own distinct molecular toolkit for building neural complexity. And it's not just protocateherins. Researchers also found 42 novel families of microRNAs.
MicroRNAs, those regulate other genes, right?
Exactly. And these newly discovered ones seem directly linked to the evolution of their complex brain and nervous system. They really forged their own path to complexity, right down to the molecular level.
And then maybe the ultimate surprise, something that really connects with us on a different level. Octopuses sleep, like actually sleep.
Yes, a profound discovery.
What does that tell us about their cognitive lives? It's not just resting, is it?
It doesn't seem to be just passive rest. Researchers observe them cycling between quiet sleep and active sleep.
Active sleep, like REM sleep.
Strikingly similar. During this active sleep phase, they see rapid skin color changes, flickering patterns, plus eye movements, muscle twitches. It looks remarkably like REM sleep in mammals and birds.
Wow. So maybe dreaming octopuses?
Well, we can't know if they dream, of course, but the parallels are strong. It suggests there might be something fundamental about cycling through these different brain states, especially for animals with complex cognitive abilities. It's likely crucial for things like learning consolidation, memory processing.
Okay, so putting this all together, where do octopuses really stand in the grand scheme of animal intelligence? How do they actually stack up against the animals we usually think of as smart mammals, birds?
Well, in many specific cognitive tests, they perform remarkably well, often on par with intelligent vertebrates. We mentioned puzzle boxes, learning, and think about cuttlefish again, they're cousins.
Right, the marshmallow test.
Exactly. They showed impressive self-control, delaying gratification for a better reward. That's a sophisticated cognitive skill, showing impulse control that rivals what you see in some primates and corvids, like crows.
So it makes their intelligence a really prime example of convergent evolution, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of the best examples out there.
I mean, diverging from our lineage half a billion years ago.
Over 500 million years ago, yeah.
And yet independently evolving, complex problem solving, maybe play, personality traits, long-term memory, even this active sleep state. It's incredible.
It really is. And it fundamentally challenges the idea that high intelligence must arise from a specific type of brain structure, or that it only evolves in highly social species.
Right. It shows that intense ecological pressures, just the challenges of surviving in a complex environment, can be powerful drivers, too.
Precisely. It's not just about social chess. It can be about ecological survival driving brain power.
And this growing scientific understanding has had real-world consequences, hasn't it? Like the UK formally recognizing cephalopods, octopuses, and their relatives as sentient beings a couple of years back.
Yes, that was a landmark decision in 2022.
What does that recognition really signify?
It places them legally and ethically in a similar category to vertebrates regarding welfare considerations. It's an acknowledgement based on the scientific evidence for their capacity to feel, to experience pain, distress, but also perhaps positive states. It compels us to really reevaluate how we treat these animals in research, in fisheries, potentially even in captivity.
Extending our ethical considerations.
Exactly. To creatures whose inner lives are clearly complex, even if alien to our own experience. It reflects the strong scientific consensus that these aren't just simple mollusks, they're cognitive outliers.
Okay, so why? Why did all this incredible intelligence evolve in what started as a, solitary, short-lived mollusk lineage?
Right.
What were the big evolutionary pressures?
Our sources point to a kind of perfect storm of factors. First, there's the shell loss hypothesis.
Losing their protective shell.
Right. Ancestral cephalopods had external shells, like snails. When octopuses lost that armor, they became soft, vulnerable bags of protein in an ocean full of predators.
So they had to get smart to survive?
They had to become incredibly cunning, fast, and masters of disguise just to avoid being eaten. Intense predation pressure was likely a huge driver.
Okay, pressure number one, don't get eaten.
Yeah.
What else?
Second, their environment and diet. They often live in complex habitats, coral reefs, rocky bottoms with lots of hiding places, but also lots of challenges. And they're typically generalist predators.
Eating lots of different things.
Yeah, which means they need flexible foraging strategies. How do you crack this type of crab versus that type of clam? How do you lure this fish? This environmental complexity and dietary breadth strongly selected for behavioral flexibility, learning, and innovation.
So tricky environments and tricky food push intelligence. Makes sense.
Absolutely. Third, there's their unique life cycle. We touched on it. Grow fast, grow smart, die young.
No parental care.
None. They hatch as tiny, perfectly formed miniature adults and are on their own immediately in a dangerous world. There's no time for slow learning or cultural transmission from parents. This puts immense pressure on individual, rapid learning, and intrinsic adaptability. They have to figure it out fast.
Wow, okay. Intense pressure from day one.
And finally, that self-reliance. Being mostly solitary means no social safety net, no group defense, no learning from elders in the same way social animals might. It pushed individual cognitive abilities to the forefront.
So it really emphasizes this idea of ecological intelligence smarts driven by interacting with the complex physical environment rather than just social dynamics.
Exactly. It broadens our whole understanding of why complex brains evolve. It's not always about being social.
It's such a compelling evolutionary story for this truly unique kind of mind. But of course, studying animals this different must come with its own set of challenges for researchers, right?
Oh, definitely. There are always methodological considerations. You're often dealing with relatively small sample sizes in lab studies. There are significant differences between octopus species themselves. And then there's always the question of lab behavior versus wild behavior.
How much does the lab setup influence what you see?
Precisely. So scientists have to be incredibly careful, meticulous in their experimental design and interpretation. But that said, the amount of rigorous data collected, especially in recent decades, has really solidified many of the earlier, perhaps more anecdotal claims. The consensus is strong now.
And presumably it's crucial for researchers to avoid anthropomorphism, just seeing human traits where they might not exist.
That's paramount. It's easy to watch an octopus manipulate an object or change color and project human-like intentions onto it.
Right.
So the scientific approach demands very careful operational definitions for terms like play or tool use or problem solving. We need clear, objective criteria to ensure conclusions are based on evidence, not just our human intuition or desire to see complexity.
But even with that caution, the conclusion is pretty clear.
The consensus is overwhelming. Octopuses are genuine cognitive outliers among invertebrates, possessing a suite of abilities that challenge our expectations. And we're learning more all the time.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this whole deep dive. Wrapping it up, octopuses are considered highly intelligent because they really demonstrate this remarkable collection of advanced cognitive traits. Everything from nuanced problem solving and, strategic tool use to incredibly complex learning, robust long-term memory, and even these behaviors that look an awful lot like play.
Yeah, a whole suite of abilities.
And their sophisticated nervous system with its weirdly distributed setup, its unique genetic foundations that we talked about, and even those REM-like sleep cycles that provides the biological wetware for all these amazing feats.
Absolutely. And their intelligence, because it evolved convergently down such a different path,
Yeah.
offers really profound insights, doesn't it?
How so? What are the big takeaways?
Well, as we mentioned, it forces us to reevaluate animal welfare and extend our ethical considerations. It's inspiring new ideas in fields like robotics, and AI engineers are looking at their decentralized arm control, their adaptive camouflage.
Right, bio-inspired tech.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, studying them just fundamentally broadens our understanding of intelligence itself. It proves pretty convincingly that there isn't just one way to build a complex, fascinating mind. Nature is more creative than that.
That's a great way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to leave you with. What else can a mind so profoundly different from ours, yet so clearly intelligent, teach us about the very nature of consciousness, of adaptation, right here on our own planet? What might you discover if you just paused for a moment to observe the alien brilliance that might be right in front of you, maybe in a tide pool, or even just on your screen in a nature documentary?